Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? I hope you're all well. My name's Steph Dickers. I'm from a place called Bishopsgate Institute. Some of you might have heard of. I don't know. If you haven't, check it out. It's a wonderful place that does lots of wonderful things. But may I first of all say thank you to Rosie for inviting me and Suresh here, because there's nothing I like better in the whole world than interviewing Suresh Singh about this,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
which is absolutely amazing. And I hope you've all got your copy already. If you haven't got your copy, I expect you to have bought it within half an hour of this talk finishing, because it is an absolute amazing book, the story of Suresh and his dad, Jaginder, and lots of other people as well pop up in the book, which we're going to be talking about tonight. Very quickly, before we tuck in and start talking to Suresh, I always like to tell a story about this, because Suresh talks a lot about his dad, and I thought last year...
Oh man.
Your old man. I thought last year for Father's Day, I'd buy my old man a copy of this book. You know, it's about a dad, you know, and my dad's a man of few words. The best I've ever got out of him about a book was, "It's all right." So I bought him, it was all right. I gave him this book, he read it, and at the end of it, I said, "What did you think?" And he went, "Yeah, it's quite good." So if you want a recommendation, that should be on the back, I think, of the, you know, Rob Dickers, quite good. But what I thought we could do, I'm going to ask Suresh a few questions for about 45 minutes, and then if any of you have questions as well that pop up at the side, we can hand those over to Suresh as well. But as I say, it's always a delight to do this, and I always like to start off, Suresh. You are my hero. You could explain to us all, how did this book come about?
Well, once again, I'd just like to, thank everybody, the whole team, Newham Heritage, for putting it all together, Deborah Peck, Vivian the book. So it's like a collaboration and a cooperation. But as you said, it's a love story for my dad, because he did so much. He came from the Punjabi in 1949. He loved me, adored me. He loved my mother. He was a feminist, he was an anarchist. He couldn't read or write, but he came to Spitalfields, to Brick Lane in 49. And he put this whole kind of area together on the map for his friends, for people. He befriended the local vicar at Christchurch, Spitalfields, and they had this sort of love relationship. And Dad had all these old photographs from the Punjab, and like when he came, he take pictures down Roman Road, and I'd go and see his mates who were moving into like East Ham and Plaistow and West Ham, and he had all these photos. And then sadly, Dad passed away in '86, and then I thought, what's going to happen with all these pictures? So I put them in a carrier bag, and I took them down to the Bishopsgate Institute, and whoa, there was like Steph. And he said, I'll archive them, bless him and bless. That's kind of what I love about the libraries, My copy on the mantelpiece is from Newham Library, so you can get it out of the library if you don't want to spend whatever it is. A score, which is Bobby Moore. Eh? But, yeah, so it's a love story. And I didn't want the pictures to be put in a skip. So Steph and his team sort of, lovingly scanned them, put them together. But then he said, I know this geezer, right? It's called the Gentle Author. And I go, what kind of name is that then? What's he look like? Yeah. He goes, he'd like to sort of like do a blog, because he does his blog on Spitalfields. And Steph set up this meeting up in the Bishopsgate Institute. And there, I met the Gentle Author on Saturday. It was lovely. And he put this beautiful story together about Jaginder Singh, the shoemaker, and how Dad originally came from the Jamar caste, which is the lowest untouchable caste, and how he came to Liverpool Street and started shining shoes, and his whole story about moving into Spitalfields with his mates and like lovingly caring for anyone. And then I come on the scene, and then the family comes on the scene, and Mum comes on the scene, and he just like kept the house in a beautiful anarchic way, which was like, the foundations for my punk.
Yes. I will come back to the punk days, I think, a bit later. But can you tell us a bit more, Suresh, about Jaginder coming to Spitalfields and how he ended up in Spitalfields and ended up in one of the heroes of the book, which is the house in Prinsett Street.
Well, Dad came with nothing. He came with like a little satchel, and in there was just shoe polish and a shoe brush. And he came by boat, landed in Southampton. And then people said there was a kind of word going around that if you go to Spitalfields, right, it's a very bad place to live, right? So you can like hide in the doorways and stuff, and you can get pallets from Spitalfields Market and like burn wood, and like they chuck the veg on the floor and you can pick it up and make a meal out of it. And there was no Sikhs in the area then. And my dad had his gears and his beard. And then he found his way in Spitalfields and Camperdown Street, just around the back of Aldgate. And they kind of like got together, and then they got the house of a Jewish Führer, bought the keys, a big house. But he didn't buy it because he wanted to buy a house in England. He bought it so he could bring all his mates in and live 50 and like get environmental health on their backs. You get me? Whoa, like housing, you know? So like 50 people living in the house, hot bedding. And my dad would pick up the vagabonds off the street and shave their hair and, you know, wash their knits. And my mum always used to say he's crackling in the yard. And there's that, like, he'd shave them off and then set the hair on light. And all the knits go, pick, pick, pick. And my mum was like, oh my God. My mum came in 1952, you know, and she was powerful. You know, my mum was like, held it all together. And it was just wonderful how, you know, they had the house open for everybody, because to him, he couldn't lose his Sikhism. And at that time, he couldn't get a job. He was trying, and his gears and his turban and his, but then they all kind of got together and they said, oh, we'll know how you can get a job. There's this bloke up in Glasgow. He does these rituals. Glasgow, yeah. So you kind of like chop all along, Victoria coaches, get all the way up to Glasgow on the M1 when it was empty. And my dad took me there later in my teens with tears in his eyes. And he said the guy he ended up in the Gorbals, the rough part of Glasgow, beautiful buildings, very similar to Spitalfields, really, you know. They've got their Greek Thompson architecture, we had Hawksmoor, you know. And he sat Dad in the yard, in the courtyard of these tenement blocks. And he took Dad's 7-metre turban off. And he shaved his head and shaved his beard. And they said that Jaginder Singh wailed at the top of his voice. And he said, now my Sikhism is within me. And he came down to Spitalfields and he got a job like that. He went on a building site then. And then made all like, so Labour made all the Irish mates and stuff like that. And then he liked like Wilkinson sword blades, you know. And then he kind of had this opportunity to say that how Sikhism is within. And it's about serving and not judging and loving people.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. And not long after your dad comes over, your mum comes over too, Suresh.
Yeah. So
you must have been quite interested when she turned up at Prinsett Street and saw what was going on.
Yeah, I think this is not a swear word, so I'm going to say it, you know. This is a shithole. People pee in a bucket. There's no hot water. There's no bath. There's no saying, what am I doing here? Like, you know. But, you know, love has no barriers. You know, and you love someone and they adored each other right to the end, my mum and dad. So my mum kind of got a network and slowly the women started coming over, you know, and they started learning how to put terry nappies on, you know what I mean, the big clip, and they went to the clinic together. You know, they were like a cooperative, a collective of women, very powerful. You know, my mum at Mile End Hospital had me in 62 for the mathematician who worked with my age at, and she had TB. And you keep people in for 6 months then. They kept us in for, I mean, you know, I bowed down to the NHS, you know. 6 months Mum was in there with TB. And then every Friday they would give women stout to strengthen their blood, you know. It's good for you, they said. But as a Sikh, Mum never drank alcohol. Right? My father always said, give me the intoxication that never wears away. you know, of love, serving others. He goes, if you can find an offie that sells it, tell me, I'll buy the whole lot. And then Mum, every Friday, Mum kept these bottles of like Guinness, like on the side of her bed, like, you know, for Micah table. She had them like a mini bar. And then on a Friday, all the women would come and party on her bed and like, you know what I mean? It's like party time. And then they kind of carried on, the Maltese women, the Irish women, you know, the Pakistani women, such a collection of people, you know, and people were going like the Green Shield stamps, they were getting on the bus to the co-op in Stratford. You remember the big co-op? Beautiful, like, you know, Stratford, I loved it. My mum used to like take us there when I get all our clothes from the co-op. So she's like a real co-op. That's one of the reasons I got to know you, because the Bishopsgate Institute has got one of the biggest cooperative archives in the world on cooperatives. Plug that up. Plug that up.
Thank you, Suresh.
And then they come and see Mum and they go, oh, hello, Mrs. Singh, how are you? And my mum would go, I'm not Mrs. Singh. And they go, are you divorced? They go, no, I'm not divorced. I'm not divorced. She goes, I'm Mrs. Kaur. And then she had the chance to tell the story of Guru Gobind Singh and the Dashme Pasha and how the women were called Kaur out of quality because they had their own identity, how the men were called Sikhs. So this loving relationship they had in the East End was wonderful. They couldn't read or write English. My dad couldn't read or write Punjabi, you know, but they got on. They got on by landmarks. They knew you got on the 25 bus at Aldgate East, you know, took you off at like, you know, Stratford, you know, and it's like the ugly little car. I think they made it into a beautiful like busting car. I liked it when it was all concrete, you know, but I'm a brutalist. But, you know, it's like this network of people, they loved each other, you know. There was like a knitting shop in Stratford. My mum used to buy knitting, and there was an article, and they used like a knitting shop, and they knit together. So they had my mum had this network, and my dad always said, you know, look after the kids, you know. So mum never went to work, although her other friends started to go work in the Treeball factory in Catherine Road.
So not long after that, Suresh, 1962, you pop up.
Yeah.
The next hero of the book, may I say. What do you remember about growing up there? It must have been an amazing childhood growing up surrounded.
Yeah, it was lovely. I mean, like, there were so many people in the house. I thought everybody was my uncle and my aunt and my sister. My dad brought us up like lovingly, you know. And I had a bottom, you know. It's like kind of my mum never cut my hair then, and when I was born, my mum used to dress me up in like girls' clothes because I had my other sister, so they just share clothes, like, you know what I mean. And the bloke used to come around from like plaster. He go, well, is he shokra or shokri? And that's like, is he a girl or a boy? Like, you know, that long hair dress. Okay, it don't matter, does it? So they had this like beautiful like equality, like breaking down the barriers, you know. And that was unique because my dad had like started living these Sikhism in England of like not judging people, having an open house. My mum used to make sandwiches.
iPad.
All right. Okay, can I carry on? Yeah. And so then at the age of 5, my father sent a lot of money to the Punjab, and not to make his palaces, so his family could live there. My father was sent over by Baba Falla, who was a member of a Ghadar party, and they were revolutionary. You know, they befriended Udham Singh, you know, one who shot in Caxton Hall, you know, and Udham lived in Artillery Passage in Liverpool Street. He lodged there before he did the assassin. And my dad had all these stories, you know, so they are a real connection. Early on when they sent my dad over, they said, that boy, he's going to do well. He won't let you down. You know, he'll trade tooth. He won't get caught up in Maya, which is materialism or ego. He spotted Dad straight away. And from then, my dad was like selfless. You know, he gave everything away. You know, he'd go back, he'd come back like in these like gutcha, just his shorts, you know. He's giving his suits away, his watches away, everything. But then my mum took me and my little sister to the Punjab. So we stayed there for a year and a half at the age of 5. This is kind of before primary school, you know. For all the ed psychs there and all these like education, they go, oh, that's the most important part of your life, you know what I mean? Like, just take that. So, so I had spent a year and a half being picked up by aunties, being kissed and open, going to the toilet in the fields. I tried school, but that was a bit dodgy, you know what I mean? Did it hit ya? So I thought, no, I'd sack that off. But I grew my hair, so I had gear, so I had a bob. And then I came back to London at 6.5, and I had to go to primary school, Christchurch Primary School on Brick Lane. I hated it, you know. I had to eat like boiled tomatoes, you get me? Oh, what is that, like? School dinner. So I used to run home for school dinners because Christchurch just next street to our house, Princess Street. And I remember, like, I didn't know how to go to the toilet, like, you know. This is like shocking to me. I thought like, I'm a Cockney kid, right? Because I didn't miss it a bit when I was in Punjab, because they didn't have baked beans and ties, and I used to go, oh mate, you know. But then coming back, I didn't know if I was a Cockney kid or a Sikh kid. You know, I couldn't cope. I remember, like, the toilets. I used to stand on the toilet, and the teacher used to look down and go, "Where's old Siggy?" Like, you know, I'd be standing. You get me? And there was like a lot of bullying going on and stuff like that, you know. I mean, the inverted commas, and I hope I don't offend anybody, you know. It was like called then Paki bashing. And I should tell them, look, my mum is originally from Pakistan, my dad's from the Punjab. Before you partitioned it off, mate, you know, we were all Pakistani. But I said, I'm not there. And it was like, it was kind of horrible kind of time. And then my friends were coming in from East Pakistan, had got its independence, Bengal. So there was a big flux of Bengali families coming. I just said black cab suitcases suddenly, you know. Brick Lane was, you know, and then you had and it was just lovely. But there was hate, you know. And they should say, catch this one, like they say, oh, like, we're going to beat you up because you smell a curry, right? I go, well, now, what is the national dish of this country? It's curry. And I should say to my mum, oh, mum, don't caramelise the onion. It's called turka in Punjabi, yeah? And they get into your blazer. And then they go, oh, he stinks of curry, like, you know? And because then I went to school in Dainford. Dainford is another... yeah, and that was at the top of Bethnal Green Road, so it was on the other part. And but somehow, like, the white working class kids kind of said, "Oh, Singy, you were right," because I did like Cockney accent. I couldn't help it, you know. And they beat my mates up, and I said, "Well, you can't do that." They go, "But yeah, but you're right, Singy, because you've got a Cockney accent." I could sack you off, mate. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. So that really upset me. That was the sort of time in the 70s, you know, when punk was coming up, 77, 2/7s clash, you know. The Rastafarians for Siouxsie, this was it, you know, this was the coming. And my mates had that lovely afro. I said, one thing I always regret, and my dear friends, you know, that I never had an afro. You know?
Suresh, talking of hair, you must tell the amazing story about your hair when you were young.
Yeah, this kind of upsets me. So you'll have to excuse me if I do, you know, but it's like...
Don't get upset. I can't give you a hug.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, very similar to my father, because I had the bop, and before going to Dainford, I knew I was going to get bullied for the bop from a goodie. And I wanted to take that off before things got bad, because they said, like, they flash your head down the toilets and all this kind of stuff. You get me? And I thought, oh no. So I went to the GP with my mum, Dr. Gottlieb. Lovely Hasidic GP. Smoked a big cigar in the like GP. I remember Gottlieb. You know, he smoked a big cigar in the GP office there. And he go, come in, Mrs. Core, come in. And he was lovely. And then, I was really tearful then, Steph. And people, he's going, what's the matter with you, Suresh? Like, you know, you're usually quite bubbly, like, you know. Like, he said, oh, Mrs. Core, can you just go outside a minute? And then I said to him, I really want to take my hair off. And it's upsetting me. Although I love my Sikhism, I love my mum, I love my dad, but you know, I like my dad. I said I could still, like, you know, be a Sikh. I wanted to be like my dad, you know, because he just broke all barriers. So the book is a love affair about him, the love story, really. So then he called mum back and he goes, Mrs. Cole, he goes, your son needs to cut his hair because he's got asthma. Great, isn't it? That's a diagnosis, isn't it? I've got him. And then mum took me back to 38 Princess Street. My dad took me into the yard and he sat me in the middle of the yard, and they said that he was reciting Waheguru Waheguru, which is a Sikh sort of mantra, and he cut my hair off. And I knew there was a twinkle in his eye. It's kind of like he remembered his time. And he put all the hair in a brown carrier bag, like in Petticoat Lane, put it all up in a carrier bag, and put it in a carrier bag, gave it to mum. I think the son's with. And then mum used to like hide this bundle of, like, you know, hair under the mattress, here, there. Do you remember the days when there were no banks? Like, you put your money under the mattress, mate, you know? Or your valuables. But then one day mum said, let's go for a walk. And Tower Bridge is just up the road. So we went for a walk. And a really funny story, my dad used to take us. And then, you know, the Tower Bridge opens, isn't it? And it's like a gap. You can look down it like that. And my dad used to say, don't go on that other side, right? Because that's South London. You don't want to go there. Oh, sorry, South Londoners. You know what I mean? This is the East London Club. Yeah, it's Newham, Tower Hamlets. Sorry. But my mum, we went together. And we went on Tower Bridge. And out of her handbag, she got the bag. And then she threw it into the River Thames, the hair. And then she said, Jallo, in the top of her voice. And that means, like, let's move on. Let's move on.
That's an amazing story. Amazing story. Now, you did mention Dainford, Suresh.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people I meet at the library from East London tell me lots of wonderful stories about Dainford.
Yeah.
And I know you had, should we say, well, fun. I don't know if it's the right word, but, you know, I think you enjoyed it, didn't you?
I loved, yeah, it was like, because it was like where, it was like a love-hate relationship, you know, like at that time in the 70s, you know, I went to school in 72, you know, it was like, there was a big flux of like Trotskyites, Marxists, Maoists, you name it, they were there. They were my teachers. I loved them, you know what I mean? They thought the revolution was coming, yeah? They used to say, Suresh, we've got machine guns in our squats in Murder Street under the floorboards. Come the revolution, we're going to take them up and go, bah, kill the work, you know, the middle classes, the bourgeoisie. And these are my teachers, right? And like my art teacher, Bryce, he started smoking in the art room. And he used to say, Suresh, paint like Matisse, you know? And then on the other hand, I had like Eddie, you know, who I adored. My dad and Eddie had this relationship. He was the vicar of Christchurch Spitalfields for 21 years. And Eddie used to say to my dad, you're a better Christian than me. And my dad used to say, you're a better Sikh than me. Because all they did day and day long was serve the down and outs, the meth drinkers, the women on the streets. They had this like beautiful like way of serving. My dad was like the Langar of the Seva, you know, there was no good worry. So my dad sent us to Sunday school. I went to Sunday school for 11 years. Catch that one, yeah? Because my dad said, you've got to need some moral purpose in your life, yeah? So I know my Bible really well for a Sikh boy. So that kind of, yeah, so like I had that. But Eddie, like, it's like really weird, like you're not getting reaction from the audience. Like, but Eddie was the chair of the Festival of Light. And then people go, whoa. Does anybody know festival? And like kind of one hand going to pop. And when I say Mary Whitehouse, they'll go, oh yeah. But like, you know, Eddie was the chair of like Mary Whitehouse, Lord Longford, Cliff Richard, all of them. Their mission was to eliminate pornography out of England, full stop, and get Trotskyites. So there's like big clash, like Tariq Ali, my teachers. It was like a mishmash, you know. I loved it. What an education. Who needs a degree in sociology, you know? So it was lovely. So my teachers at Dainford were wonderful, you know. And Mr. Price, I got 1 O level at Dainford, and in art. But he was telling me to paint like Matisse, and I thought I'd better listen to him and get his O level out of the way. But I was getting into punk, so I was like doing collage, you know what I mean? And then like spitting image and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, later on, that foundation got me into Russell Group University to UCL, and I studied architecture, you know? And that's the beauty of it, because not many people could say, oh, I know Hawksmoor, I live in Hawksmoor, I work in Hawksmoor, you know? It's kind of, and you walk them streets, so your eye got trained. But one of the funny things are these teachers, right, they call themselves Marxists, but one was like SWP, another one's International Marxist Group, and they used to go to the pub at lunchtime, right? Teachers there, some of the teachers come to these talks, so they know what I'm talking about, you know what I mean? And they come back with like black eyes and like tooth, like, going, what's the matter with you, like, sir? Oh, we just had a bit of a punch up, like, you know, something, some little minutia, like, come the revolution, who's going to, like, sit where or anything, something like this, you know. So that was my secondary school education. But Dainford is somehow that energy. We believe in spaces and architecture ain't just to do with buildings. But Dainford, trust me, yeah, that building's got something, because something always odd goes on in that school. It's always in the papers, you know. Sadly, recently it was with the 3 lovely girls that went, you know, over to Syria. Yeah, yeah.
So not long after this, Suresh, you embark on your career in punk and rock and roll. I love it. How did this happen, Suresh? How did you end up in a punk band?
Well, it's 77, right? And then when the violence was going on and the skinhead and you know, I got beat up really badly at the top of Brick Lane around the Truman's Brewery by a gang of skinheads. And I had enough. I had enough with my Bengali mates. You know, we used to play marbles. We loved each other. My mum in and out of the house, because my dad never judged anybody, you know. This is not a slam on Ilford, by the way, but they'd go, like, leave this, like, dump and go and move to Ilford. My dad goes, you go and live in Ilford, I'm going to stay in my slump, you know what I mean? They go, well, you piss in a bucket. He goes, well, and then, but at the end, my dad would, before he went to the, who's pissing in the bucket now, you know? So, but, you know, it's kind of, I had enough of it. And my dad, by that time, because he'd worked so hard, had a stroke. And I knew he was dying. And I thought, I can't be had with this, you know. So I said, Dad, let's go back to the Punjab, because I'll get a one-way ticket. I was like 15. Because I'd gone to India before with Mummy, and I had this like, kind of, you know, love still, though I was born and bred. That's why I like this Cockney Sikh, it works, you know. And then Dad said, well, I convinced him, you know. I said, come on, Dad, let's go, you know. 6 months, you know, you can. He goes, well, you can get a one-way ticket. I'm not getting a one-way ticket. So we went. I got a one-way ticket. He got, like, you know, he got his return. And I loved it. I was just me and my dad. He took me to the Sufi places in the Punjab. He taught me how the eunuchs worked. He took me to the Nahangs, the Sikh warriors. He showed me everything. He shared his stories, his love stories, his hurt. He was homesick. He came to England in 1949. He was homesick. And if you know what feeling it's like, you know, women, you know, we've had that kind of, we can't hug each other, we can't love each other, we're that distance. We feel it a lot now at this moment in time, you know. So that I had that beautiful experience, but then I got really ill because the mosquitoes kind of bite me. They knew that geezer is from London, right? They said, oh, they spot the strawberry jam, that Robertson strawberry jam. So I had like big balls all over my body. I came back and they took me straight to the tropical disease hospital in King's Cross. So Dad stayed for a bit. So my health, I had to come back. And then I went to Jubilee Street, City and East London College, to catch up. And then there was like all these dropouts from Belsize Park and that, going, well, what are these kids like? You know what I mean? They drop out and all, they're like, but they were like rebellious, but they were posh rebellion, you know what I mean? But then 77, it was lovely because punk was coming up. You know, the Sex Pistols, and you could like just buy a drum kit with a few bob and set up a band. So I had a drum. I said to my dad, "Can I buy a drum kit?" And he goes, "Yeah, look at the back of the melody maker," and I got one. So he used to allow me to play my drums at the stand there, and like smashing them, like, you know what I mean, using telephone, you know, going. And then when you like fed up, you kick the like bass drums. But I befriended like a Spiz. Spiz was from Birmingham, from Solihull. But he had a friend, Mark Cofield, who was the keyboard player. And Spiz knocked on my door at Princess Street. He goes, we're going on tour with the Siouxsie and the Banshees for 6 months. You want to come with us? He's going, it's like Siouxsie and the Banshees, The Cure, and Spizzenergi. Dave Woods presents. And then we're going to go to like Brussels to do Plan K. And then I went down to my dad. My dad loved it then because I had my nose pierced, you know, I had like a pair of football boots with a Union Jack on it. It was like a bit, sort of, take a bit P-take of like the skinheads and all, you know. But, you know, it was sad for me and all because I had lovely friends. Like my beautiful friend I used to play with in the Venture Playground. I saw him once on the corner of Brick Lane. And I go, so, how are you doing, Martha? And he looked immaculate, like, he like red socks, like steel toe cut boots, jeans, braces, Ben Sherman shirt, skinhead, like. I'm going, hey, it's me, Suresh, you know, Singy. I go, what are you doing? What are you doing? He's going, I'm going to do some like packy bash. I said, but you can't do that, and you come around my house like eat your pie and stuff. He goes, no, he goes, you're all right. So it's like all these like kind of hate going on, you know. And my father never accepted that. So I said to my dad, they're going on tour for 6 months, you know. Can I go, Dad? He goes, well, you got a drum kit, go. And my dad was really proud because we used to go to the jumble sales and get our clothes. And we used to, like, you know, we'd make things. My mum had this, you know, my dad had this, like, you know, making things and using things. And he allowed me to do that. You know, he used to take the pee out of people coming around with their bad fittily John Collar shirts on, you know what I mean? The other Punjabi fam. And then all like, well, why your son got no to? My dad goes, he ain't doing anything to you, is he? You know, my dad loved this like edge. And I think I got that from him because he knew that you got to question the status quo. You know, you got to, you know, love anybody or anyone, regardless. He said, everybody's a Sikh, you know? And then we went on tour, which was lovely, you know, and then we put out Where's Captain Kirk on Rough Trade. And then my father also said, he goes, when ego sets in, ship out. So I thought, oh, like egos are getting a bit here now, like they want to go on top of the pops and stuff like that and get electric guitars and all, you know, like, and tune up all their instruments. And then I left that just because, you know, but I loved it, you know, and it was like, I felt like I was protected and all, you know, some like dodgy gigs, you know. I mean, I went to like screwdriver gigs, all skinheads, like thinking, whoa, I'm the only like black person here, you know. But I think love protects you. My father, you know, would pray day and night for his children to be protected. He had also that spiritual element. But no one would mess with my dad, like, you know what I mean? Like in the 60s, like, Joginder Singh. I think there's that lovely picture there, Steph, of Dad and in the book, where he's got this like two worlds, you know, like there at Princess Street, you know, he's dressed in his kurta pajama. But outside in the street, he would dress like a British man, you know? So no one would sort of, you know, stand his ground. But he had that kind of love. So, you know, but my dad loved it. My dad was a bit of a soul boy, really, because he used to, like, you know,
I've got to say, Suresh, looking at the pictures of your dad, now anyone who knows Suresh knows this. He's one of the most dapper people you will ever meet in your life.
Oh.
He comes into the library and he's always immaculately dressed with like the best swag threads I've ever seen. So is this something you got off your dad, Suresh?
Yeah, because my dad said, because he liked with his shoes, he said, look, always polish your shoes. Like, I've been polishing my shoes today, right? You can't see. You know, it's like, but the shoe was very important. You couldn't go out of the house without a polished shoe. And all my black mates, right, they were immaculate, like, they were like in the soul, like, but they were like, oh, but they'd like, their caps had like feathers in it and that, you know, my black mate, we used to nick their hats and stuff like that. So everybody at that time was dressed. I was going like, how can you wear a hoodie? Oh, sorry, Steph, you know, can't wear a hoodie or your pants down halfway down trousers, you know what I mean? But my dad and my mum said, even if the clothes are second hand, make sure they're clean, crisp, and no one can say that, you know, that you're looking neglected. You know, how often do we see now, we go and you think, oh, you know, you can spot straight away, you know. And my mum and even, my dad used to get suits off of the stiffs. It's very difficult to get a audience response here, but if anyone's tried to get a suit off a stiff, put your hand up. It's very difficult to get me. But they go, oh. Yeah, so
we did have one person put their hand up, Suresh. We've got Robin Blench.
Oh, bless you, Robin, bless you. Well, like when the funerals would come, they'd go like, here's a £5, you know, get that suit off him. When the curtains draw, get the suit on him. You get the best suit, tailor-made in Spitalfields. So that swag is very, very, very.
I have to say, another superstar in the book, and anyone who's got the book already or is about to get it will notice through the book, is the wonderful Jagir and some of her amazing recipes that appear during the book. So can you tell us a bit about how you met Jagir and a bit about the recipes? There she is cooking away in the book. And the book has the recipes that you can then go and make as well, which I have to say I haven't done because like I burn anything. But, you know, tell us a bit about Jagir and how you met, Suresh.
Well, food is really important, you know, and the serving of food to anyone. So anybody who comes to the house and at home in Princess Street would eat whatever we eat. And there was simple food of the gurus passed on from ancestors. And Jagir kept that tradition. When I went to India with Dad, when I was 15, I found out that Jagir went to the same exact places a week before me. Jagir had come to a wedding in the 80s to her uncles in Plaistow. She's got a Plaistow girl, really, like, you know what I mean? Plug for Newham. And they said, oh, like Jagir's over from like India, you know? And like me, like, oh, yes, my son, you know what I mean? And I went to see Jagir and we just got, and my father goes, she's a lovely kid. And Jagir had met my dad way back, you know, because they used to send pictures over, like them black and whites. And Jagir had a picture of me when I was 5 years old on a mantelpiece, you get me? Through the family, like extended family. And my father was very happy. They said, this is the most happiest moment of Jaginder Singh's life. And he married us in Manor Park, in Carlisle Road, in the Guru Ravidas Mandir. And my dad was just so happy. There's pictures of there. It was his finest moment. He passed away a year after. But he adored Jagir, you know. My dad, they kind of connected with Punjab. And my mom, they treasured right to the very end. You know, my father's no longer here, my mum's no longer here. But Jagir kept it within the food and the serving. So and he's exactly the same. You know, anybody who comes is not judged, and everybody gets the food, and it's just like absolutely. And Jagir loves doing it, and my father, they'd shared this kind of love of the Punjab. Kind of some things that I couldn't really relate to in one sense, you know. And yeah, and then because Jagir's uncle, who worked in the bread factory in Forest Gate, my dad and him were really good mates, like way back in the 50s. So they had this friendship. And he always used to say, there's no man like Joginder Singh. And they go, he's so religious, yeah, that he wails at the top of his voice, Waheguru in the morning. And like, my Jagir's, my wife's uncle said, no, he's not religious. What's the matter with you? Like, because there's no hot water in the bath, he baths in the morning with cold water in the yard because it's so cold. When the cold water gets to him, he goes, Waheguru, Waheguru. And you could hear him from Brick Lane because the water was so cold.
And so I've got a couple more questions, Suresh.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I'm going to open up to to all our wonderful people who've come tonight. So you have to tell us about, because since coming back from India, marrying Jagir and being in a punk band, you've gone on to do like incredible things, Suresh, and made a lot of it in Newham as well. So I think you should tell us about what you've been up to in your architecture.
Oh, well, you know, so I kind of, you know, Eddie was a big part of my life, you know, Eddie Stride, you know, and then he spotted me. And the Christchurch Spitalfields was being restored. And there was a lovely man in number 14 Fournier Street, and a lovely person, Bernard, lives in there now. It's a beautiful, and I used to do bits for him. And Eddie said to me, you got a good eye, you know. I said, what's he going on about? The vicar going on again and again and again, you know. But he said, I think you should consider studying architecture. I can sack that off, like, you know what I mean? But I was doing my apprenticeship at Hackney Technical College. But then, you know, from our house was a landing pot. So people would move. So we had family now in East Ham, so we'd always be in the district line, you know. Great, you get off at East Ham, you get off at Plaistow, you know. And it was like this lovely relationship in and out, you know, and the Gurdwaras, because there were no Gurdwaras. So like we got that kind of connection. And then, but Eddie said, why don't you consider studying architecture? So I applied to the Polytechnic of Central London at that time. It was like the highest of the schools of arts because it's Polytechnic. And I had beautiful lecturers there, like James. I bow down to them, you know, like David Green. But once again, they were the punks of architecture, yeah? Architecture's dead. Don't do any buildings. Be conceptual. We hate architects. They get these magazines and they make these rubbish little buildings. They buy Laura Ashley wallpaper, stick it on, you know. They rip out real paneling, no thanks to the New Georgians, you know. And we want to shoot Farrell and Ball. I thought, oh, yeah, I thought I was going to be drawing like Palladio buildings and stuff like that, you know. But then I did wonderfully at architecture school in my degree. And then I did my year out in Sir Anthony Cairo Studios, the British sculptor. And I loved it. You know, he was doing a thing called sculptecture. Get that one, put that in your pipe and smoke it. With a combination of like architecture and sculpture with Frank Gehry, you know? Whoa, you know? Heavy stuff. And then Sir Peter Cook from the AA took over the Bartlett School of Architecture at UCL. And they were the punk a la punks at Archigram of like architecture. They thought that you can't touch a building. You know, we hate architecture. But I said, like, well, this is architecture. This is Bannister Fletcher's architecture school. No, we hate. And then, you know, I went my portfolio to the Bartlett to get in for my diploma, part 2, RIBA. And Peter Cook goes, I love this. He goes, like, this is Chandigarh drawn. Because Le Corbusier built all of Chandigarh. So and the Hawksmoor. So I had this like a combination of like, and all my Marxist teachers. So I had this sort of kind of like left-wing aspect of building, you know? So I had like Walter Seagull, you know, the anarchist kind of self-build people. So it's just lovely. It's like education at its best for me. And then I qualified as an architect. And then I was still in the back of my mind, you know, I'll sack architecture, I'll sack all this off. And then Swanley School was being built in Whitechapel, the first school in 12 years to ever be built in London. It was like a street, a walking street. Catch that one, you know what I mean? Kids were always cold in it. The head teacher goes, "Oh, Suresh, you're a local boy, you know, come show." And it was like, night, you know, show the kids your drawings and that. And I went to the school and showed the kids my drawings. I was working for Whitechapel Architects then and working for Eddie. You know, Eddie played a big part. He was always around, you know. Even when my father died, I was working in Fournier Street. You know, Jagir came and told me. I said, well, that's a good, safe place to know this news, isn't it? Anyway, just change the subject. And then I thought, wow, the reaction from the kids, like, isn't that amazing? So I did like a PGCE. And they paid you for that. And then I fell in love with education. Ever since, I haven't turned back. You know, kids are the centre of my work. They're the future, you know, wherever you are. It doesn't matter, you know. Your home is very different from a house. And do I say that to architects? I can say that as an architect, you know. Home is full of love and nurture and smell and safety. House is like bits.
And now you're a head teacher, Suresh.
Yeah. Well, I oversee, you know, that I kind of, it's just like, my father always said, be humble, you know? So and my father knew that he couldn't do anything without others. And people go on about leadership, you know, and this, but, you know, everybody's like, you know, that's why I love the cooperative movement. It's like, it's so important, you know, the kids are most important, you know. When you lose that, my father always said, when the ego sets in, and going back to the punk, ship out, you know, move on, you know, because you say, oh, this is my cat, this is my Steph, this is my wife. He goes, but one day you're going to leave it all, you know. And how potent is it now that our health is our wealth, you know. You know, I always say, oh, like when the British went over, I'm going to plug this bit, you know, when the British went over, they shot all the yogis going, what are they doing now, walking around? My first slot is my father brought that. That was his heritage, walking around with mud, hanging off trees, doing yoga. Now they're all doing it on London Bridge and everything, like yoga's lifesaver. You know?
Right. Go on, Suresh, go on.
Well-being and your love for others is the most important, no matter who you are or whatever you do.
So 2 last questions, and I'm going to quickly hand over. One, I would love to know what Jaginder would have thought, knowing that there's, you know, 150 people hearing about his life on Zoom. He's got a book in the public library and on sale about his life, including one that's been nicked from Newham Library by the look of it.
Yeah, I love it. Newham Library. I do, so I love it.
I don't think you're supposed to tell everyone you've got it from the library. Suresh.
Yeah, dear Steph, you know, this is still, you know, your library, there's a start, you know. It's like people, there were havens, places where people from the cold would sit, you know. The vagabonds would sit there. My dad would sit there in the cold. You only couldn't read and look at the pictures, you know. And it's so important. People like yourself, the libraries, the public spaces are so important to us. And this would have been the proudest moment for my father. You know, it's in the British Library. I went to see it in the British Library. It's there. It's in Newham. It's in Tower Hamlets. You know, I love it, you know, and it's in key bookshops. But he would have looked at the pictures because my father could never read and write. You know, and he would have cried. He would have laughed. You know, he'd seen a picture of his mum. You know, he missed dearly. I think with a lot of his mates, he would have like, then after a bit, you know, would have like put his head on it and fill out the sleep. And then the librarian and people like you go, "Oi, wake up, mate! Time to go. Time."
I've got to say, it is a comfortable pillow, Suresh.
Eh?
I have tried it. It's very comfortable to sleep on.
It's time
well
to
done for that. And the fact is West Ham colours as well. Is much
and love that. Beautiful, like timber shop on Romford Road, TC Chambers. I love them. Yeah, And they go, oh, this is like a great book, isn't it, mate? Yeah, I said, yeah, it's lovely, isn't it, John? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because, but you know the greatest thing about it, Singy? It's West Ham colours.
Talking of Newham, so now you're not in Spitalfields anymore,
Yeah.
Suresh. You're now a Newham resident through and through. Tell us a bit about your Newham life.
It's our home, you know. It's our home, my Jageer's home, you know, and we love it because it's such a diverse, you know. My father always said, you can live in a palace, right? But if your neighbour's an arsehole, forget it. We've got the most beautiful neighbours, you know, a collective of streets, you know, we work together, you know, next door neighbour, and that's so important. It doesn't matter where you live or who you are, it's about how you interact. And Newham's got this wonderful like space, you know, it's like, you know, you can like, it's just like, and it's diverse, you know, and Jageer can walk to the Gurdwara, which is not that well, you know, and it's like, you know, the library and people and the diversity of people. And, you know, it's some parts probably a bit similar to the Spitalfields that my father came to and the racism that people still get from other things, from other people who came earlier, who my father never tolerated. So, you know, that kind of love is home. You know, it's that word home is so important, you know. What's the title of this section again?
So the theme of Newham Heritage Month is making a home in Newham.
Home, yeah. So I forgot that, sorry. And that's that. I thought, whoa, that's good, isn't it? And then she got, oh, our home. It's home. It's home. You know. So like we used our neighbours and we all got together, and you know, and we made this our home. And the home's open to anybody. Well, not at the moment. I think it's lockdown, isn't it? But you know, they will get the same food, the same love that anyone comes through the doors gets. And that's very important. It's very important for communities. You know,
amazing.
You do it in your work, Steph, and we do it in our work.
I know. I think everyone will agree with me and probably understand why I love Suresh so much after this past 50 minutes. He's an absolute superstar. But I've monopolised him long enough, I think. I don't know if anyone's got any questions they want to ask.
So I've been reading the comments. If anyone would like to ask a question, you can drop it into chat, or you can raise your hand and wave, and I might spot you. But there's a lot of love there for your last comment there about neighbours. Lots of love for you, basically, Suresh. There are a couple of comments that came up. You've got to look up Where's Captain Kirk on YouTube. Apparently, it's available, and that's worth looking up. And your sister Bilba's on, and she remembers when you had your hair cut off and said that she was really confused as a little girl. She said, "I want my brother back," she exclaimed. Bless her. So thanks, Bilba. Your son, Santok, says there's nothing wrong with the well-fitting Adidas tracksuit, Dad.
Oh,
there was a serious-ish question here. Just what I mean, I don't know your view on this. Do you feel that punk brought people together across the divide of race and class in East London? That's a question from Nav.
Can I answer that? Yeah, I love punk. Yeah, because punk was the bit before it kind of got arty. Yeah, before we named our cat Squeaky Politti, right? So I confess to being a bit arty. Yeah. Because it all went a bit new way. Because then the art students started getting onto this little, like, you know, gang of four. Well, sadly, like, yeah. But the thing is, like, punk was like open. Anyone could do it. That's why my dad loved it. It was that kind of anarchic way that it didn't matter. You didn't need to like be Pink Floyd. You didn't have to like have big amplifiers. You know, you could rehearse in the bottom of a squat. That's what I loved about it. And if it got hijacked, then you know, well, well, more problem, isn't it?
Yeah, agreed. And there's another question just relating to the sort of days of the 80s. I think coming from your talk about the racism that you experienced. So in 1984, there was the attack on the Golden Temple. Did that resonate for you?
I think with my father, there were continuously always violence. And my father was a pacifist within Sikhism. So he kept to the teachings of Guru Nanak, the first Guru. And all his foundations were on the Japji Sahib. And it saddened him that regardless of whoever you are, you can kill someone. So that saddened him. But he thought, oh, you go to this Gurdwara, it says it, he goes, you go to this Gurdwara, you go to this masjid, you go to that church. He goes, but you never go to the one inside you, do you? So go to the one inside you.
I hear you. Did your dad help set up Bo Gurdwara? Mandeep's asked that.
We have a lovely relationship with Campbell Road. Bless them, you know. On my son's wedding, yeah. And I can't hear you. Yeah?
I had little.
Hello.
Hiya. I was just saying I lived at number 1 Campbell Road. So the Gurdwara was my neighbour. Talk about having good neighbours. They used to bring me food when I had little tiny babies and wasn't cooking at home, and they brought me food round. So the lovely, lovely neighbours to have. I love that Bo Gurdwara.
I bow down to Jagmohan Singh. You know, he does the food bank at Bo. You know, bless him. You know, he's another rock and roller. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think, Rosie, you should definitely put this on again, like when we're all out of lockdown, and then Suresh can bring all the food and we can all feast. Because, you know, I'm trying to convince him to bring some of Jagir's pakoras round to me now, which he might do, maybe.
That's a good idea. It's definitely worth getting everyone together, I think. I think we've missed out on an element of this by not being in person. There's 90 people here this evening listening to you, Suresh.
Bless them. May you all be blessed. You know?
There's a lot of clapping, happy faces in the audience. Honestly, you've done a really good thing.
Need the chance of having a snapshot of these lovely people.
I could send you a recording of this conversation.
And all the faces, yeah?
Yeah, you can see people.
I'm very sorry we can't meet you, but, you know, I feel homesick now, not seeing you all, you know? So I feel like my dad, when he left the Punjab, he missed his mother dearly, you know? And he cremated her in Manor Park. And that meant a lot to him. That's when his world fell apart. But he loved her, you know? So you do miss people, you know? But love prevails. You know, love prevails.
Yeah, I think we've felt that love tonight. And there's just one final comment from Patricia Niven, who took the beautiful photos.
We bow down to Patricia. She's the photographer. How can you photograph a chapati floating like a spaceship?
It's so true.
Star Trek, isn't it?
Brilliant. On that note, a final big up for the book. Definitely worth getting. And thank you so much, Stefan. Amazing to have you both in the room. Thank you so much. And Suresh, thank you. Everyone.
Thank you.